Welcome and thanks for joining us. Gisborne Christian Fellowship, like all the churches around, have been going through a very busy period, which is Easter. It's when Jesus was crucified and when he rose again from the dead. After he rose again, he appeared to lots of people, and I'm going to read from John 21, which gives an account of a particular incident that happened. I'm reading from the Voice translation, which is maybe new to you, but it's called The Breakfast on the Beach. And it gives us an insight into when Jesus reappeared and what went on. And it says here, Jesus appeared to the disciples, this time by the Sea of Tiberias. This is how it happened. Simon Peter, Thomas the twin, Nathanael, the Galilean from Cana, the son of Zebedee, and two other disciples were gathered together. They were at a bit of a lost end, to be honest. Jesus had been crucified, their leader had disappeared, and they were at a bit of a low ebb. They didn't quite know what to do, they didn't quite know where to go from there. They hadn't quite picked up what Jesus had been teaching them all this time. So they went back to the thing that they knew about, which was fishing. They were fishermen. They actually owned boats, so they were the sort of fairly elite of the fishermen, if you like. They actually owned their own boats, and the families had done before. They were from fishing backgrounds, which I'll tell you about a bit later. Now Simon Peter, which was one of the disciples, was speaking to the rest of the disciples, the other guys over there, and he said, "I'm going fishing." The disciples over there replied, "Yeah, then we will go with you." They went out in the boat, and they were on an evening thing, and they fished all the way through the night. But as day was breaking, it wasn't looking very good for them. But as they were coming back towards the beach, Jesus was standing there. But as we go on, you'll see that they didn't recognize Jesus at that point. Jesus said to them, "My sons, you haven't caught any fish, have you?" "No," the disciples said. And by their short answer, they were probably not too happy about the night's work. They weren't used to this. Notice there how Jesus already knew the answer before he asked the question. The scriptures say they didn't know it was Jesus. But you see, Jesus had an aura about him. He had that in before his crucifixion, and obviously he carried it on afterwards. He possessed that aura all that time, and he still does today, by the way. He had been with them, and they obeyed everything he'd said, and that aura continued, and they obeyed everything he said. Now you'll see that in a short while. Jesus said to them, "Throw your nets on the other side of the boat, and your nets will find fish." These are seasoned fishermen, and they accepted the word of a man who for some reason they didn't recognise, and they did cast the nets again. Put yourself in their shoes for the moment. These guys have been fishing all their lives. They were from fishing families. They knew that day they were out of luck. They were very, very unlikely to catch fish. That's just how life is. It's the same to this day. You never quite know. Yet they listened to a stranger on the beach, a stranger that they didn't recognise. Why? Because like us, we knew the man speaking had authority and a welcoming, trusting persona. You see, Jesus is someone that they relied on, and someone we can rely on now. So the disciples did what Jesus said, and suddenly they could not lift their net because of the massive weight of fish that have filled them. The Bible tells us how many actually there was. You see, John, who was in the boat, finally recognized Jesus, and he called out, "It is the Lord." At that time, Simon Peter jumped in the water and swam to shore, while the rest of the disciples struggled with the boat and the fish. Upon reaching dry ground, they saw a charcoal fire laid with fish on the grill. He had bread too. Jesus had come up trumps. He had supplied all their needs, as he always had done. Jesus then spoke to the disciples. "Bring some of the fish you've just caught." So Simon Peter went back to the boat to unload some of the fish from the net. Jesus then beckoned to his disciples. "Come," he said, "and join me for breakfast." What does this account mean to us here today, here in 2025? Well, it still resonates through the ages that Jesus died, and after 3 days he rose again. He appeared, as the Bible tells us, to lots of people, as he still appears today. And it's true, he appears to so many people around the world all the time. You see, Jesus knows us intimately. He knew the disciples intimately. He knows every one of us intimately. He knows our thoughts and our feelings. He knew the disciples were downcast at that time and unsure of the future. Has that not ever happened to any of us? I'm sure it has many, many times. So he stood with them on the beach that day. He gave them confidence, which changed their lives forever. They never went back to fishing. They now had a new life, a life of what we call evangelism, telling people about how Jesus had appeared on earth and what he did and how he changed their lives. Their lives would never be the same. See, Jesus, at the beginning of his mission, told them, as he was calling them to follow him, and he said these words, and it's, "Follow me. I will make you fishers of men." And that's exactly what he did. And a final thing, because it is only a short talk this, he provides our materials physically as well as spiritually. The account I have just read says this: upon reaching dry ground, they saw a charcoal fire laid with fish on the grill. He had bread too. The meal was ready. Jesus had already provided the fish and the bread. I've got a question for you. Are you going to sit at the table of God? A table laden with good things? If you haven't asked Jesus, Jesus' name is God within us, into your life yet, you really should. God the Father and Jesus the Son are great people to hang out with. They, and only they, have your best interest at heart. They want to improve your life. God bless you, and have a great year.